All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, after falling to 7-2 following the Ole Miss loss last month, the Georgia Bulldogs rallied to win their next four, which included beating Texas for the second time this time, of course, in the SEC championship game. But that Georgia second victory of the season over Texas was a costly one, unfortunately, for the Bulldogs. As on the final play of the first half, quarterback Carson Beck sustained an injury while attempting to throw a Hail Mary as his arm was pulled down by a Longhorn defensive player. From there, Georgia would rally in the second half of the SEC championship game to knock off Texas with sophomore quarterback Gunnar Stockton at the helm. He helped get Georgia into overtime, and then there he sustained a head injury that took him out of action. And then on the game's final play, with his right arm dangling, Beck came back into the game for a handoff for what would be the winning score. But when the Beck injury happened, you could see the writing on the wall that his season was going to be over. I listen, credit to Georgia. They tried and they exhausted every avenue possible to try to go out there and see if he could rehab it, you name it. But when I saw the injury, it was eerily similar to what we saw happen to Brock Purdy of the 49ers a couple of years ago in the NFC Championship game against the Eagles. That's not, something that you're just going to flip a switch on and be back and be ready to play in a couple of weeks. That wasn't the case. Georgia was holding out hope that he could be ready for the college football playoff, but at this point, he's done, and they've officially announced that he's done. And now for Georgia to go out there and win the third national championship in the last 4 years without their starting signal caller on offense, the question is going to be for a lot of people: will the Dogs be able to get it done? But for me, I said it then. It was super important for Georgia to go out there and win that game against Texas because that ensured that the Bulldogs were going to get a first round bye and they were going to get some much needed rest. Aside from the rest, this has now given Kirby Smart, an offensive coordinator, and Mike Bobo ample time, or as ample enough time to get Gunnar Stockton ready to be the starter. Now, I guarantee you, Texas really was not prepared for Gunnar Stockton when he came off the sideline in the second half. And even with that said, we saw a heavy dose of the Georgia run game in the second half and in overtime as they knocked off Texas. But now he's going to have some additional time to get himself ready. And I think Gunnar Stockton aside, if you're Georgia, it's one of those where the onus is going to be on your defense. The onus is going to be on your offensive line. The onus is going to be on your running game. The onus is going to be on your receivers, who unfortunately have had a bad case of the drops this season. But nonetheless, Georgia has shown under Kirby Smart that they have tremendous resolve. Okay, and it starts with their head coach. You go back to last year. Okay, Georgia went into the SEC championship game undefeated, number one ranked team in the nation. And they lost that game to Alabama, okay? And they lost their opportunity to make it a three-peat as national champions. It would have been very easy for Kirby Smart's Bulldogs to sulk. It would have been very easy for a lot of those guys on Georgia to say, you know what, we're not going to play in our bowl game last year. They went out there and destroyed Florida State in the Orange Bowl, and they carried that momentum over into this season. And again, Carson Beck, with his arm as injured as it was, he wanted to go back into that game for Georgia, when Gunnar Stockton got the injury. And I think, again, that falls back into the lap of the head coach, because as the head coach goes, so does the rest of his team. And it's, whatever it takes mentality. So they're going to have Gunnar Stockton ready, but I think the team around him is going to be ready. We know that Notre Dame, who Georgia is going to be facing in the Sugar Bowl, has a very stout defense. So does Georgia. So it's going to be one of those games where I do believe touchdowns are going to be at a premium. And can Notre Dame or pardon me, Georgia's defense go out there and frustrate the Fighting Irish offense? We've got to wait and see. But like I said, that additional time should help Georgia. Of course, if this was the NCAA men's basketball tournament, an injury like this would have seen Georgia's seeding be affected, but nonetheless, we saw them win the SEC, and of course, they got that first round bye. And you just have to wonder if things would have been different for the Bulldogs had they lost that game. They clearly, well, I'm not going to say that they might have gotten a home game at that point. It might have been a situation. Maybe they would have been, in that 8-9 game. We never know, but nonetheless, they took care of their business, got that first round bye, got the rest, and it's also giving Stockton more of an opportunity to get reps. But nonetheless, Kirby's going to have his team ready to go for the Sugar Bowl. And to give you an idea of the respect that Georgia's getting, out of the four teams that got a first round bye in this college football playoff, Georgia is the only one right now that is favored in their bowl game. Okay, so that just gives you an idea of the respect given to this program. It's giving you an idea of the respect given to Kirby Smart and what he is able to do and what he has been able to do in Athens. I do believe Kirby's going to rally the troops. I do believe he's going to have his team ready to play. It's just a matter of them putting out there a Gunnar Stockton friendly offense, and I think Georgia's going to do it. Notre Dame's going to try to stop the run, but again, like I said, the onus is going to be on that Bulldogs offensive line. The onus is going to be on those Bulldog running backs. And of course, when they get the football, passing wise for Georgia, their receivers got to step up. I think the Sugar Bowl is going to be a very intense game. The over under on it right now is 43 and a half. I'll go into more detail in the coming days, the closer that we get to that game, along with the other quarterfinal games in the college football playoff. But I'll tell you right now, the first team to 20 in that contest more than likely is going to win because that is going to be a defensive struggle, field position, special teams, you name it. But nonetheless, I do believe that the Bulldogs and Kirby Smart will find a way to rally around their young signal caller in the place of Carson Beck. But folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank each and every one of you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365 that you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.